Hi guys, it's me Ty here, and today I'm going to talk about how I fixed our family's 2000 model Chevy 2500 4x4 Chevy Silverado pickup with a 6-liter gas engine in it. And what was going on with it is it was my grandparents' vehicle, and they actually had a 2005 Chevy Impala that was doing the same thing. And what was wrong with both of them is probably 25 to 50% of the time when you take them out for a drive, either of them, that it's like we're going to derate mode. You would just lose pretty much all your throttle, and you couldn't go over 45 miles an hour with it, but you could barely get any RPMs out of it either. So it didn't seem like it was a bad transmission. And with Impala, my grandparents took it in the dealership, and I don't know if they lied to them about something or whatever, but they said it would cost more than the vehicle's worth. So my grandparents traded in their car with only like 143,000 original miles on it for $1,500 because they're like, oh, it needs a transmission. It probably needs a transmission or whatever. When actually it had to do with their driving habits. Because my grandparents, they would just idle around the neighborhood for all those years at 35 miles an hour. They would never go any faster than that. So pretty soon they got frustrated with it. And so, like I said, they bought a new car. They traded that one in on a new one. And then the pickup, uh, they ended up lending it to my cousin when he was going to college. And I guess from what my cousin said, because I hadn't been around at the time, I was just so busy with work. They said that grandma and grandpa um, thought that the gas tank actually collapsed on it, like it was building up pressure in there. So they said the dealership put a new gas tank on there. And I took it for a test drive after my cousin brought it back because he put a brand new battery in it. And I looked underneath there, and it didn't look like a new gas tank. It looked like the original one, and I didn't see a dent in it or whatever. But I did notice when I take it for a drive, and it would go into the derate mode going down the highway. I'd jump out, and I would unscrew the gas cap, and I'd hear a whoosh of air, and then I'd screw it back in, and I'd be good to go. And it seemed like it would fix it each time. So I was taking it back to town. And it developed like a misfire or something. I thought I was out of gas or whatever. So one of my buddies towed me into town with his pickup, and we put 19 gallons in the 26-gallon tank. So the pickup was not empty. Um, so this is just like I said, this is just how I picked it up from my cousin. So new things had arisen since then. Um, So what I ended up doing was I replaced, and before I even lent it to my cousin, I went ahead and I replaced both the Cadillac converters on it, and I thought that I'd fixed it. But obviously, after like 150 miles of him driving it, they came back and he was just limping along in college. So I would suggest when I looked at those Cadillac converters, the old ones, I know one was completely plugged. So that was probably part of the issue there. Um, and like I said, my cousin, he put new batteries in it. Um, And me, I decided that I was going to go ahead and I was going to clean the ground straps. So I cleaned the ground wire that's under the driver's door. It hooks to the frame. And then I cleaned the another ground wire. I cleaned the ground wire that connects from the firewall to the back of the engine. And I could not get to the bolt on the actual back of the engine. So I just cleaned the top one where it goes in the firewall. And then coming up next here is where I replaced a whole bunch of parts. I just didn't have time to be screwing around with it. So I went ahead and replaced the charcoal canister by the fuel tank, which was pretty expensive, by the way. Then I replaced the evap purge valve solenoid on the engine. Then I replaced the fuel filter. Then I replaced the throttle position sensor. And then I replaced the mass airflow sensor. And that mass airflow sensor, I didn't use the name brand. I think I used just some Chinese one or whatever. Um, and then after that, uh, it cranks a long time before starting. And so I thought that I had the issue fixed. And I honestly, I think that all that stuff there actually did fix it. But I noticed that the pickup, like I said, it would crank really long before then. So before it would actually pop off. So I replaced the fuel pressure regulator, and that's on the driver's side of the engine. It just looks like a little mushroom, you guys. And how you tell that's bad is you take it off, and if it's wet on the one side, it means that the fuel is getting through there. The diaphragm is bad. So I replaced that, and it popped right off. But um, and then also I had a misfire too. So the check engine light was blinking like crazy, and that's the only code that we've ever had this entire time. Because even when I originally got the pickup back, and before we even sent it to my cousin, I hooked up the code reader, and that pickup was registering absolutely zero codes. It wasn't storing them, and the check engine light never would record anything. Um, so with that misfire, I went in and I pulled the throttle body off, and I cleaned both sides of the butterfly valve with carb cleaner and a toothbrush, and then I replaced the PCV valve, and which is something you should do every 100,000 miles anyways. This pickup has 94,000 on it. And then I sprayed an entire can of carb cleaner into the PCV valve tube that's going into the intake manifold with the engine running to clean the valves, because valves can cause misfires as well. Then I performed, and it was cylinder number 4 is what it was saying on my code reader, was that was bad. And so I went ahead and I performed a compression test on the engine, on all the cylinders on that side, and they all showed 100 psi. They were all good. Um, and what happened, what made me run around on this is when I had originally Googled it, Google said that cylinder number 2 is the second from the front on the driver's side, but that's not true. I watched a YouTube video on it because that spark plug looked fine. I watched a YouTube video on it on cylinder number 4 misfiring, and the guy said cylinder number 2 or number 4 is second from the front on the passenger side. So I pulled the that spark plug second from the front of the passenger side, and sure as heck it was just soaked in fuel. It hadn't been fired. The spark plug was bad. Put a new spark plug in, and that fixed the misfire. So you can't trust everything you guys see on Google. Actually, YouTube is better because people are actually doing it. So, um, yep, that was about it. And ever since then, it's not that we drive that pickup that much, but just the other day, I pulled a huge load with the trailer, and that pickup has so darn much power, and I had absolutely zero transmission issues. So this pickup's fixed. And I did all these repairs here in 2021, and here it is in 2025, and we have yet to have a single hiccup with this pickup. So feels good to have it back on the road, especially with it only having 94,000 miles on it. So I hope this helps you guys to keep your 99 to 2006 Chevy Silverados on the road. And I'm always kicking out more content on repair videos about that generation. They call them the T800s and GMs, because they usually go what 330,000, 360,000. They're still for sale running at that. So all right, if you guys like this content on these Chevy Silverados, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll just keep kicking out more videos for you guys. All right, bye.